Hi, this is Gurasi Singh, and you're listening to my Thick Accent podcast. In today's time, everybody wants to create something, be it a physical product or something intangible, just like this podcast. But when we focus a lot on the result, it stops us from enjoying the creative process. Because when you start something, by committing to it with continuous learning and practice, desired results will automatically be achieved. At least that's the approach I'm taking with this podcast production. In fact, a masterpiece is not the first painting an artist paints, right? So, my guest today is here to share with you how to connect with your inner creative genius and how creativity can be transcended into different avenues and industries. He moved from Bahamas to Canada in 2016 to do the pre-engineering course in British Columbia, but his passion for art and design made him transfer into Naval Architecture in University of Newfoundland. He's the co-founder and CEO of Unbarred Fitness, a fitness equipment company, and is also an author of the book, The Lemonade Recipe for Creativity. Let's hear more from him about his journey from leaving the tiffany-blue waters and golden beaches of Bahamas to creating a business during pandemic in work-from-home pajamas. Please welcome Idiamin McKinney.
Hi, Graces. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I really appreciate it. How are you doing?
I'm great. So I'm glad to have you on the podcast and really excited for this conversation.
It is my pleasure. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Okay, so Idiamin, before we talk more about your entrepreneurial journey and how to rejuvenate your creative genius, tell us about your life in Bahamas and what was the focus on growing up?
That's a good question, and I'll be happy to share. So, growing up in the Bahamas was, I'd say, the best word is interesting. I typically was more on the quiet side, the quiet boy. I remember in primary schools, my teachers would tell my father on report card day that, I wish I had a son like Idiamin because he is so quiet and calm. But outside of that, I grew up, I'd say, more in the ghetto areas of the Bahamas initially. For the most part of my life, I'd say we were struggling financially. So I went to a public school, wasn't the best public school, but I made it work. But for some reason, though, I always had this mentality to strive for better. And I think I got that from my mom and from my father. And yeah, so I always pushed myself. So I got into athletics. So I played a lot of basketball, a lot of track and field. Was taught swimming by my dad. So I competed in swimming events as well. Just athletic things was just always a part of me. And it helped instill the discipline that I needed to move ahead in life. And yeah, honestly, I'm a really family-orientated person. Everything I do is for my current family as well as my future family. And that's one thing I really take to heart. That's what drives me a lot, drives me to be better and do better and help make the world a better place for my future family that's going to come eventually.
Awesome. I love that. So where did that entrepreneurial bug comes from?
Yeah, so that came from the need to live. As I mentioned, we came from a kind of a ghetto background, financially struggling. So we always sought different ways to create more income for ourselves. So my mother, she's a pastry chef. So she makes these amazing wedding cakes, birthday cakes, tarts and what's not. And eventually kind of took it into my wing. And so what I'd do to make some lunch money in high school, she would make the cupcakes and I'd go and I'd sell the cupcakes.
Oh, wow.
So I'd take this big box of like 30 to 48 cupcakes to school and sell them. And all my friends and younger kids would come to my classroom and buy the cupcakes from me. And that kind of got me into the entrepreneurial journey because I realized I can make my own money without, having to obey the rules from someone else. And that kind of sparked my interest. I enjoyed the freedom. I enjoyed connecting with people. I enjoyed building that clientele of people who are like Like literally, kids were like looking forward to me coming to school the next day to bring my cupcakes. So it was a great feeling, and making people happy, bringing smiles to people's faces like that, very beneficial for me. So I think that's what started it. So my mother is a very entrepreneurial by heart. She
Okay.
also does the cakes. She works as a pastry chef, but also on the side she bakes birthday cakes and wedding cakes for other people for commission and what's not. And then my sister is very entrepreneurial as well. She runs a business called Media Box Bahamas, which is a digital advertising agency. So they
Okay.
build solar powered billboards and actually displayed it and like on busy roads and such. So I got a lot of entrepreneurialness for my family.
Lot of creative people in the family, huh?
Yeah, definitely come from good genes.
And did you ever try on making those pastries or any sort of bakery stuff?
Yeah, actually, not cake specifically, but a lot of pastries. So there's a traditional dish called the guava duff, and it's really nice. It's really sweet and savory. I've made that a number of times. I've made coconut tarts, pineapple cake, it's not pineapple cake, carrot cake. That's what I made, carrot cake, banana bread, and smaller other pastries as well. But those are the main ones that I've made so far. And I bake bread as well.
So I remember in our earlier conversation, you were telling me that, in order to become the person you want to become, you had to leave your parents' house. And I think many of the immigrants listening to this can relate to it. So tell me about your side of the story, and was Canada really your first choice to move to?
So yeah, Canada was not my first choice actually.
Mhm.
Um, the US was my first choice because it was closer, because it was warmer. Um, there are some other opportunities there as well. I actually got accepted to a few universities in the US. However, the process of getting into like actually transferring to the US was significantly more difficult. Especially as in trying to transfer as an athlete, getting into the NCAA there's a lot of process behind that. Canada was just like it was a much smoother process to get into Canada. I got accepted to Thompson University pretty easily, and from there I just kind of took off. But in terms of why I decided that I needed to leave the Bahamas,
Mhm.
there was a lack of opportunity there, as well as there was a bit of a negative mindset that I wanted to remove myself from. You know, um, typically your mindset is shaped by the level of exposure that you have. So for people who come from struggling backgrounds, they don't have that level of exposure for wealth and great opportunity. So they tend to stay in this conformed birdcage type of mindset. And I knew that I needed to leave in order to get out of that mindset. And I knew that I needed to leave in order to get my family out of that mindset as well.
Hmm.
So that was my main reason for leaving.
Yeah, it does happen that you are confined in that four walls of the house and the limited network that you have. But in order to grow, you
Hmm.
really have to leave that. It's said that to teach somewhere, you have to leave from somewhere. So I think
Yeah.
that clearly applies to you. And so yeah, you came here. So
Hmm.
in Thompson University, you landed in British Columbia. Tell
Hmm.
me about your first day. How was your first day?
It's beautiful. I'd say, not just visually beautiful, but like
Hmm.
internally beautiful for myself. Um, I felt so much at peace. I felt joy, and I felt accomplished in a sense. I know that this was just the start of the journey, but
Hmm.
the fact that I was able to start the journey made it feel so good. So when I first came to British Columbia, I actually came with my mom. We traveled together. So she stayed at my place, at the apartment that we got, and she stayed there for the first 2 weeks. I just remember the excitement of moving around, traveling to different parts of the city. We lived in Kamloops, and Kamloops is a very mountainous city, so you can see like a lot of mountains and hills all across. And that was just a very different atmosphere from the Bahamas, which is like surrounded by water. So
Yeah.
it's just like mind blowing that this other place existed, right? And these different views of nature was different, and it was very comforting. Um, I remember though the day after my mom left, and I was in the room by myself, and I was able to, actually like reflect on how far I came and
Mm.
just getting there. I shed a few tears, honestly, because it was just like it was beautiful. I felt good. I felt like wow, I I really put my mind to doing this, and I got here. And mind you, when I made the decision to leave was in 2015. That's when I decided I want to go to university and want to go off abroad. I didn't go off right away. It took me over a year because
Mm.
certain things happened where I didn't get into the university that I wanted. I actually applied to Memorial University first, but I
Okay.
didn't get accepted. I think I applied like 3 times and I got accepted on the third time. Actually, I didn't get accepted until I was in Thompson Rivers University. So this has always been my end goal. But yeah, the very first few times I tried, wasn't able to get there. But eventually I was able to leave and get out of school.
So you were, so you said you came to British Columbia, but you wanted to go into the Naval Architecture program even before you came.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
so where did that interest come from about the naval architecture? Because it's not the very traditional go-to program that international students choose to
Mhm.
pursue, right? How
Right.
did you got interested in that?
Yeah. So obviously the Bahamas being surrounded by water is very kind of natural for us to be wanting to have something to do with the ocean, right?
Mhm.
For me, I was in this program called the Maritime Cadets, which was a program for a lot of high school students, and it introduced us to marine engineering and other and naval architecture as well. And back then, I had a passion for art, but not as greatly. So I liked drawing and such, and I liked marine engineering. So naval architecture, which is the design of boats and offshore structures and what's not, felt like a perfect combination of design and engineering. And that's kind of how I decided I wanted to be that.
So, how was the experience studying at both universities, if you can share that?
Sure thing. Thompson Rivers University was pretty good. Actually, I would say amazing. Because we was one of the first. I was one of the first 5 Bahamians that actually went to TRU that year,
Mhm.
and I'd say we were truly pretty good. Like it was really good. It was like we were the stars of the university at that particular time because they never had any Bahamian students, right? So the treatment was good, and I was able to just build so much really nice relationships with a lot of people, and that's
Mm.
where my passion for art really exploded. I was painting all day, every day. I was painting wall murals and such as well. And the university was very supportive because they actually paid me a good amount of money to actually paint these wall murals on their walls inside
Oh,
the
wow.
campus as well. So yeah, the experience at Thompson University was amazing.
So, the other one was the Marine Institute of University of Newfoundland, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, so I actually went to the engineering program at Memorial University specifically. Did that for 1 year, and then I transferred to the Marine Institute, which is still a part of the Memorial University, but it's like a subsidiary of it. And I did that for 3 years. That's where I studied naval architecture.
It's very interesting. You said that you tried to that Medine Institute University, Memorial University, couple of times, but never got in. But you
Hmm.
happened to go into Kamloops, the Thompson University, and that's where your passion for art kind of got more polished, and you
Right.
more got interested into it. So I
Hmm.
think it clearly shows that everything does happen for a reason. And we
Hmm.
just have to find the good in whatever just comes your way and just accept that.
Right. Exactly. Just because you wanted something to happen at a certain time, doesn't mean that it's
Yeah.
supposed to happen that time. I think everything comes with the right timing. A phrase that my mom makes: "Money never comes at a bad time."
Yeah, that is true. So you did do multiple part-time jobs as well, when you were studying. Tell us about those jobs and also tell me about the things that you learned from those jobs and something that has stayed with you even up until today.
Mhm. The first thing that I learned that I about when I was working at jobs, I realized I don't like working for people. That was the first thing.
Okay.
That was
That's
the
a good
first thing.
learning.
um, so the first job that I worked at when I came to Canada was at Michael's Art Supply Store, and that was
Hmm.
back in Kamloops, BC.
Okay.
That was great because it helped fuel my art. I was able to get discounts, and I was able to be more exposed to all the different uh, tools, paints, different materials and stuff that artists use. So that also really helped promote my ability to create great paintings. Um, that was a very challenging job because the hours that I worked were very
Hmm.
inconvenient for me, especially as a student. I would work from 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning till about 9 a.m., 10 a.m. And then I would have to go to classes right after that. So I would be like
Okay.
extremely tired during those classes and
Pretty hectic.
pretty hectic. And just like waking up 4 o'clock in the morning is not easy. And I
Mm.
worked that job during the winter. So it was snowing as well. And I used to ride my bike to work. So imagine me riding my bike in the snow
Oh my
at
gosh.
4 o'clock in the morning. It was not easy. It was,
Not at all.
but it definitely it allowed me to see someone in myself that I never saw before. Like this, I can do much more than I thought that I can. So
Mm.
that's one thing I learned from that job. I also worked at Walmart for 3 years when I came to Newfoundland. I also
Okay.
worked at a place called S&P Data. That was a call center. So I talked with a lot of customers there. I improved my ability to speak with customers, angry customers as well.
Yeah.
Definitely got some interesting stories from that. But yeah, I I learned how to work more with people and with more diverse set of people because people in Canada are significantly different from people in the Bahamas, right? So
Yeah.
definitely was able to learn more patience, learned how to interact with people better, um, and just learned how to do a job, without complaints.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I think that's definitely something one can learn from. When they move here, you get exposed to all kinds of people you have never met before.
Right.
You are like, forced to communicate with those people and network with those people and build that connection, which is
Hmm.
not easy for anybody for sure.
No, not at all.
So, Idiamin, you were also telling me about this philosophy that you have adopted. You call them the five I's.
Hmm.
And one of those I's that stayed with me was identity. And that's exactly what I try to talk about on the podcast, in context to the immigration, that being an immigrant, one tries to fit in and to be accepted by the locals.
Right.
They lose their authentic self. But
Hmm.
there is so much that they can bring from their roots, that they can incorporate into their immigrant life, immigrant journey, and that can benefit not only them but even the people around.
Right.
That is about your interpretation of that particular I, and also about the other four I's that you have.
So for identity for myself, it meant, and I typically refer to myself as Ray, not just Idiamin. So I would say, Ray, who are you?
Hmm.
What do you want? Who do you want to become? And I've always been on this consistent journey of what do I want to become?
Hmm.
And I tried to, I tried to, I would say I tried to be a lot of people. I've followed a lot of people and tried to pick which qualities that I admire and try to emulate that and turn that into myself. But it's also for me when I came to Canada, it was a big question of identity.
Hmm.
And when I wasn't surrounded by all my old friends and family and what's not, and I had to relearn Ray. It was better. I would because I was alone. It wasn't like so much external factors. I was more in my head now, thinking to myself with my own thoughts, and it's just like, who am I? Who do I want to become? Um, what I did was just my immediate circle wasn't what I wanted to be, so I had to change that, and it was hard to change that at first. So what I did was I went onto social media and I found successful entrepreneurs. I found life coaches. I found motivational speakers like Eric Thomas and Lisa Nichols and such. And they really inspired me and helped me figure out who I am and what I want to do. Uh, but in terms of keeping my cultural identity intact,
Mm-hmm.
what I did was purposefully listen to the cultural music. So like every weekend, I would have reggae music playing, Sunday morning reggae music playing, so that I keep in touch with my Caribbean side, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's very important for people to continue to evolve evolve their identity,
Mm-hmm.
but also retain a lot of it, because you, as an international student going into a foreign place, you tend to lose yourself. It's easy to lose yourself with so much different um, influences on you, and you not having that structure or that discipline to tell you don't do that. You gotta. It's a learning curve. But that's it for identity for me. The other five eyes, or the other four eyes that I typically try to emulate and learn about. One is idea, and I found that ideas are very important. One of my favorite mentors is Jim Rohn, and he talks about how ideas can change your life. One simple idea could really
Mm.
do damage, good and bad.
Yeah.
So I really pushed myself to be better at idea generation. So I got a journal and I'd write down all my ideas. I'd literally like write them down and I'd categorize my journal to say, no, this idea is in this particular section. This is my business idea.
Mm.
This is my life idea. This is my idea for things I want to do for my family, type of thing. All these ideas is very
Mm-hmm.
important. I think we should record them,
Yeah.
because if we don't record them, then we lose them. Um, One of the things I put in my book, actually, The Lemonade Recipe for Creativity, is think of your mind as a warehouse, and your ideas are the packages that come into your warehouse. And just like how a warehouse works, your mind works. If you don't use this package, or if this package is useless, they're going to throw it away. It's not going to be used,
Yeah.
you know? Same thing with your ideas. If you don't put this particular package in the right spot, and if this idea is not used properly, it's just going to discard it, right?
Yeah.
So I tell people to organize their ideas, write it down, make it real, make it tangible. Next one is inspiration. I think inspiration is very important, because as much as we try to find inspiration for ourselves to do certain things, to find the motivation to do things, I think it's also important to inspire other people to do things, inspire other people to want to become better, want to become greater. And inspiration for me it's been a big thing, because I've been inspired myself. And
Mm-hmm.
it's taken a lot. Like, for example, there's a particular speech that I listened to from Jim Rohn. I've edited this. This is an hour-long speech. I've edited this speech with some music, so it's nice and it flows. I've listened to this 1 hour speech probably over 150 times,
Oh,
which is
wow.
kind of insane. But the messages that he say in this particular speech is life changing, and that inspired me. And the next one is ingenuity, being authentic with yourself. Uh, I think that's a hard thing to do, because a lot of people, there's so much influences that they don't know who is their authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say isolation is very important, because that's when you actually battle with yourself, not just other people. You battle yourself. You battle your thoughts. You battle the ideas that's in your head. And when you overcome that person that overcame everything, that's your authentic self, outside of the judgment of people. And I'd say my last I is innovation, doing things differently, doing things better, making improvements to your life, making improvements to your family, friends, making improvements to products, processes, systems. I think it's very important. And that's how I was able to come up with the invention for my product, by being innovative, trying to figure out
Mm.
what's the fault with this particular product and how can I make this better. And that goes for everything. If you're working in a job and they have a particular process that they do, but that process may be inefficient, how can you innovate this product so that it's better? that it flows smoother, that's more efficient. So those are my five buys.
Very, very, very powerful, Idiamin. I loved all of them. I think I'll just highlight few things. You said in the beginning that you were forced to talk to yourself and introspect,
Hmm.
and that does happen. It did happen with me as well. Back in India, I was really having so many diversions, and if I'm feeling low or anything, I can go and sit with my family. I can maybe call my friend or anything. But when you are in abroad in a foreign land, you don't really have enough connections, anybody you can reach out to directly immediately. And then you are just forced to talk to yourself and really question few things, and then really find solutions your own self. So you're forced to do that. That does, the immigration part does teach you that. The other thing you said was, which even I really always tell people, that it's okay to question few things that you have been taught all your life. It's okay to evolve, and it's okay to really shed few things away which are not serving you anymore. And it's absolutely okay to relearn the things that are going to help you and better your connections and your even your life in the coming years, you think. So yeah, that's like my take on these things.
Perfect. Actually, a question for you. Let's switch it up.
Okay.
So, when you had these particular questions to yourself, what was your process of? Okay, so I know a lot of people have a lot of negative conversations with themselves.
Yeah.
What were your? How did you beat those negative questions? How do you beat that negative self? What was your process like?
I'm in this true believer of just being positive, Raman, honestly. I there were days you would question yourself, and it's okay. Everybody has those good and bad days, but the right thing to do is just learn from those bad days, and when you have the good days, be grateful for that, and just jot down the things that can help you in those negative days. And that happened with me as well, and I think my positivity, my optimism has kept me going up until today, and that's what exactly has helped me during pandemic as well. No, not enough people to talk to, time differences, I can't call my family all the time in India. And then at that time, I found my source of positivity, which was of course the challenge that we did, the 30-day challenge, where you and me actually we actually met for the first time through
Yeah.
that challenge. So yeah, just staying positive, and just believing in my abilities, and just in my skills, and everything, just staying positive, I would say, because there's so much negativity, so much rejections that come your way when you are even finding a job. And
Hmm.
I can't let those really hold me back and just stop believing in myself. So I would say that's exactly how I actually really tackle those situations. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Awesome.
Okay, so you did talk about ideas. So talking about those ideas, and you also mentioned your book, The Lemonade
Mhm.
Recipe for Creativity. Let's just talk about that. Tell me about the inception of that idea, and how did you come up with this name? Tell me about the story behind the name as well.
Sure thing. So, the biggest thing when I decided to write this book, I decided to write this book because a lot of people in my immediate circle, I don't think they probably understood the concept of creativity, as well as a lot of people think that they aren't creative. And I wanted to challenge that. And that's what was the biggest purpose of this book, is to challenge your concept of creativity,
Mhm.
and to show people that you actually do have creative genius inside of you if you try. You know, because for me personally, creativity is something that I had to build. It's not just like this natural innate ability that people think that I have. No, I
Mhm.
had to sit down and draw for 24 hours just to see that, okay, I can actually draw this
Yeah.
thing and it doesn't look like a stick figure. And I think that just kind of goes on without saying. Creativity is very important in any field, any endeavor that you're doing. So helping people become more creative, I think, is a great life skill and a great service that I'd be able to provide to people if they read and participate in the book. Now, the name for the book, The Lemonade Recipe for Creativity,
Hmm.
definitely an interesting name. Um,
Yeah.
I was playing around with different names as well, but this one really stuck because I wanted something that's relatable, something that
Mhm.
was simple, something that was enjoyable and positive. Like when people think about lemonade, they think positively, they think happiness, they think sweet, you know? Maybe sour
Hmm.
sometimes, but
Mhm.
typically there's a positive attitude when it comes to lemonade. And I also chose that because lemonade kind of pulls people back into like their childhood. Like you think
Mhm.
about like lemonade stands and
Yeah.
creating lemonade with your family and what's not. You know, happy times. And creativity, why people think creativity is so abundant in kids is because kids don't, they question everything. And that's the biggest thing
Mhm.
with creativity, questioning everything. That's how you come up with creative ideas.
Hmm.
So the lemonade recipe for creativity was just to, I came up with a name to put a nice, happy spin on the concept of creativity. The lemonade recipe for creativity. Making lemonade is really easy, just a few concepts, just a few ingredients. Being creative is pretty easy, just a few concepts that you should adopt. And that's how the name became.
You have definitely talked about a lot of things in the book, all things creativity, but what is one thing you want the readers to take away with them? The one thing.
Can I say two things?
Sure. Say three, as many as you want.
First one, believe that ideas can change your life.
Mhm.
Believe that ideas and being creative can change your life. That's the first one.
Mhm.
And two, question everything. Question everything.
Hmm.
I feel like one of my concepts in the book is um, an idea is simply a solution, a creative solution to a problem.
Yeah.
You ask more questions, you come up with more solutions. You ask more
Mhm.
questions, you come up with more ideas. Ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
That thing I would stress a lot. And the the quality as well as the quantity of your questions matter.
Mhm.
So ask a lot of broad questions, but ask a lot of very specific questions. So, for example, I had a challenge in my book where you are tasked with designing a new bike
Hmm.
that rides faster. So
Mhm.
the broad question would be, how can I make this bike ride faster?
Yeah.
The specific question would be, how can I make this tire have more traction so that it
Hmm.
it grips to the ground for faster, it
Hmm.
grips to the ground stronger so that the bike
Yeah.
is propelled faster.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
type of specific questions that I'm talking about. And one of the quotes that Jim Rohn talks about, he says, um, people tend to go to the ocean with a teaspoon,
Mhm.
trying to get something from it. If you're going to go to the ocean, go to the ocean with a bucket so you can get more
Hmm.
from it. Ask more questions. Ask for
Ah.
more from yourself, and you'll get more. So that's my two things.
I love that. You know, I always say this, it's not always about having the right answers. It's
Mhm.
actually about asking the right questions. And I'm a
Yeah,
sure believer of that.
definitely.
So if any of our listeners is looking to rejuvenate your creative genius or despite the industry you are in and need a new perspective on creativity and idea generation, check out the link in the show notes to get the book. Okay, so Idiamin, you also talk about the another philosophy that you've adopted, which is the five F's, and you
Mm,
call them the five F's for life. And you
yes.
said that if you master those, you live a good life.
Hmm.
Tell us more about that.
Yes. So the five F's. The five F's would be family. It would be friends. It would be finances. It
Hmm.
would be fitness. That's four. The last one, and I think one of the most important ones, is freedom. Freedom to do these particular things. Freedom to have a relationship with the family. Freedom to experience more of life. I think if you're able to master those would be amazing. Because having any one of those without the other, there's a lack, there's a gap. You're missing something, and you visibly feel it. If you have freedom but no family, you can't enjoy the freedom that much.
Hmm.
If you're family but no freedom, it's pretty tight, you know. Same
Mhm.
thing with finances. You could have a family, but if your family is financially struggling, there's going to be a lot of tension, a lot of burden, and a lot of conflicts within that family. And fitness is very important as well. If your freedom, if your finances, but your health is poor, you
Hmm.
know. So if you master all of these different aspects, I think you would set yourself up for a good, healthy, happy, long life.
I love that. Very, very wise words, Idiamin. Love
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
So that you did talk about, fitness, and you being a fitness enthusiast, you understood the demand of this home fitness tools, and you founded Unbarred Fitness in
Mhm.
2020. What's the story behind that? Tell us all about that.
Yes. So that initially started when COVID happened, actually.
Hmm.
Everybody was not just working from home, but working out from home, right?
Hmm.
And I used to work at Walmart at the time. So I would see the things that people are purchasing. And
Hmm.
every so often I'd go and I'd visit the fitness section. And I'd see that all the fitness tools are bought out, which
Hmm.
which was typically not rare, but it wasn't as much. Like the shelves wasn't completely bare when COVID wasn't happening.
Hmm.
Um, so I realized that there is an increased demand for home fitness tools, and me being the creative entrepreneur that I am, I was
Hmm.
like, okay, I'm gonna take on this challenge. You know, what equipment that can I create that people would want? And that was the ab roller that existed, that still exists. And even me loving working out, I never liked the ab roller because it was just too basic and too simple, but unreasonably hard as well. So I wanted to create a product that's more versatile, that more people can use at home, and that's more fun and enjoyable to do. So 2 years later, we created the Unbarred Gems, which is a portable fitness tool that individuals can use for exercising to build their muscles, but also massage therapy to recover their muscles after their
Hmm.
intense workouts.
Interesting.
You also can use the gems for coordinative exercises to improve your hand-eye coordination. So it's a very versatile tool. Uh, I enjoy it. I use it pretty often, and the
Hmm.
individuals that I've shown it to also are pretty into fitness. They're saying that it's a pretty cool, pretty unique tool, and it is patent pending now. We're planning to launch Unbarred Fitness early next year, so we're definitely looking forward to it.
Tell me about the design of it. You did work on the design, right?
Yes, so I initially came up with the overall design, but we brought on a co-founder. Her name is Epitine. She is our technical co-founder, so she was responsible for creating the 3D model of the product, and she
Hmm.
definitely had a great hand in creating the overall shape as well of the gem. And
Hmm.
yeah, so it was a collaborative, creative effort from
Hmm.
our parts, and it really came together. So what it is a handheld product. I actually have one here. So this is it here. If you can see, it's kind of in the shape of a gem, like how a diamond shape would be.
Yeah.
Simple as that. It has a stainless steel massage ball that comes with it that you can use to massage your muscles. So this is the overall design of it. The ball is out right now because I was using it to massage, but
Hmm.
that's it for now. That is it.
So where did you meet your co-founders? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I have two co-founders actually. Joshua Neely, he's in the Bahamas. We met in high school actually. We became
Oh,
best
okay.
friends since then. We're still best friends now. And I initially told him about the idea, and we decided, let's go make this happen. And then we brought Ebitin on probably like a couple of weeks later,
Hmm.
so pretty soon. And she liked the idea, and we just worked together. So I met Josh in high school. I met Ebitin at Memorial University. She actually studied naval architecture as well, and she's currently living in Halifax. So just a pretty, and all of us are from the Bahamas as well. So that made our communication significantly better, made us able to relate more, crack jokes during the meetings and
Sure.
such. It was just a more inviting experience.
So you were saying these are not available for the customers to buy right now, right?
No, not just yet. Not just yet.
Okay.
We're still we're still doing some more fine tweaks with the product, as well as
Mhm.
um, we're in the process of getting them mass produced, so they're
Mhm.
not physically available yet for purchase. So that's it. And one of our marketing strategies is that we're not targeting the end users just yet. The end users will be the athletes and the fitness enthusiasts and what's not. We're
Mhm.
actually targeting gyms. Gyms is our primary target market because they have a great history for purchasing fitness equipment, and they're actually looking to expand their product, their catalog. So those would be those are our top priority right now.
So now, Idiamin, we are in the final segment of the podcast. I call it Beneath the Accent because we are here to know each other beneath the accent. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You can answer them in one word or a sentence or however you feel like. The idea is just to know more about you. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
So, first question is, what advice would you give to Idiamin, who is in the initial months of landing in Canada?
It's a good question. The initial advice I'd be continue to believe in yourself
Hmm.
and trust your instincts. Um,
Mhm.
Trusting in my instincts has always been beneficial to me, and that's something I'd continue to keep on doing and tell him to do as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about the best piece of advice that someone gave you. You did talk about the advice that you learned from the speech, but anybody in your life in the time that you spent in Canada, anybody that gave you like advice that stayed with you?
Man, there's so much advice that I've gotten over the years. It's a lot. Um, I'd say it goes back to believe in yourself. I'd say
Hmm.
um,
Okay.
that's always been the advice that's common. Believe in your abilities. Believe in your
Mhm.
gifts.
Hmm.
Believe in yourself. That's the best advice that I've gotten by
Okay.
far.
So you did mention you got like a lot of advice from a lot of people. Tell me about the worst advice someone ever gave you.
Sheesh.
I'll tell you about mine. Someone once told me just to, be positive, be positive. I mean, that actually went to the point of being toxic positivity. And I
Um,
think it's okay to
be negative.
it's okay to feel bad. I mean, not to feel bad, but it's okay to sometimes have your low days and just learn from it and accept it and to just hope for the better day to come. That's how I took it like that. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I realized my worst piece of advice. Um, the worst piece of advice was to chill and don't do too much.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, got that from one of my former friends, actually. I'll say former friends, still one of my
Hmm.
friends. Um, but the concept of, or the mindset of, I don't need to do too much was against who I wanted to become, you know? And that would have been, if I had followed that advice, that would have been the worst piece of advice I'd get, because I can't imagine myself just like sitting down watching TV all day
Yeah, of course.
and not making something of myself. I can't imagine that. So that probably was the worst piece of advice.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay to chill at times, but if you're just chilling all the
Mhm.
time, it will not take you anywhere.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, what did you recently buy that you now regret?
Uh, I wouldn't say there's anything that I regret buying.
Okay.
I'm a very efficient person,
Hmm.
so I try to spend very very efficiently as well. So most of the things that I buy, I use
Okay.
pretty often. Don't no okay. There is one digital art pad that I've bought.
Hmm.
I regret buying it because I lost the stylus for it, so I can't use it now.
Oh, okay.
So that's it. I regret buying that. That's
Okay.
it.
So, what's the most expensive thing you own, you think?
Probably my laptop. This current laptop that I have right now. Yeah, it's pretty high end. I've been paying for it for the past 2 years. It was the school actually loaned it to me initially, but I was paying off while I was in
Okay.
school, and I eventually fully purchased it. But it's probably a $2,000 laptop,
Hmm.
and it's pretty strong. Can hold all the softwares, Photoshop, and all the good stuff,
Hmm.
and still run smoothly whilst all of them are open. So I'd say that's probably the most expensive thing that I've got right now.
What's the most expensive thing you would like to own?
$1 million house. About a $6 million house, I think, would be good for me.
Okay.
I don't see myself going more expensive than that.
Okay. So name 3 things from your bucket list.
I'll have a long bucket list. I want to travel to various countries in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
That's on my bucket list. On my bucket list, I want to be able to stand on a stage in front of 40,000 plus people
Mm-hmm.
and give a speech.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
That's also one of my goals. And next biggest goal is to get my family out of financial stress. Those are my top 3 bucket lists.
Okay. More power to you, man.
Thank you.
So now if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
Okay.
To fly. I'll be able to explore the world. Be able to see the things that I wouldn't normally get the chance of seeing. Yeah.
So what is the most important quality you think you have, Idiamin, that will take you where you want to go?
Patience. Patience is I think that's my strongest quality. Patience has allowed me to stay focused and think long term rather than just try to have fast results. Patience has got me out of a lot of potentially bad situations, not fast reacting to things. Yeah, patience has definitely probably saved my life many times.
Yeah, I can relate to that. It's also said that instant gratification is your biggest enemy.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I agree 100%.
Finally, describe Canada in one word or a sentence.
Open. Open in terms of open to people.
Mm-hmm.
Open in terms of mindset as well.
Hmm.
Both good and bad. Yeah. I think it's important to be closed-minded to a lot of things. It's important to be closed to a lot of things. I would describe Canada as open in both the good and the bad sense. In terms of positive sense, I think Canada's trying to do a good job of getting more people in and diversifying it. And growing its economy. I think it's open to entrepreneurship. It's open to innovative things. Open to startups. Open to ideas. But I also think it's open to a lot of discrimination. It's also open to a lot of falseness as well. And openness to try to change things that shouldn't be changed too much.
So now we've come to the end of the episode, Idiamin. Those are all my questions. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and adding value to my listeners.
I thank you so much for inviting me. This honestly has been a really good conversation. I appreciate you for, creating the platform for people to share their voice. It's very important, and I think it's very needed. And I think it's very underrated. So I appreciate you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, listener. Thank you for making it to the end. I highly, highly appreciate you listening the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't as yet. And please share with your friends or anybody you think would like it. And like I always say, we encourage you to follow your heart, but also us on Instagram. The handle is mythicaccent. You can also leave us a review or write to us at hello@mythicaccent.com. So stay tuned and let's continue knowing each other beneath the accent.